So this is where I introduce myself.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm Emma. Emma Heath. I'm here. I know Katie through Stanford, though we kind of slid past each other. And I am currently a teacher in Southern California, but I'm here to talk about Empty Brackets, a social media, a collaborative art project that is available on social media on Instagram, and that involves microfiction, small, strange little sort of fantastical stories I've written, and they're paired with an illustration or a depiction of some form by some artist that I've reached out to and begged to help me, and Katie being one of them.
I think I reached out and begged you. I was like, I want to be a part of this.
I'll take that version of the story. Yeah. Much like this conversations project, it's one of those ongoing, collaborative, evolving projects that is sort of happening as we speak.
Yeah, and it's this amazing project, and I've been following it since its inception, and watching it grow is so exciting. And I think we personally, we were doing a lot of talking before this video about the work that goes into it, and interesting facts about, you know, what constitutes an art project, how, you know, throughout time, something that can manifest and expand the boundaries of what you would normally consider an art project to be. So I guess the best place to start is, how did the project start? What was your kind of motivation behind creating these microfiction stories and then pairing them with illustrations?
Yeah, so I think a few converging factors. One was one was the kind of what we talked about, where I had been able to push past any impediments to writing in the critical arena. I was writing at Stanford English essays, and then I wrote briefly for the San Francisco Chronicle. I was doing like book reviews and also like some data entry. And funnily, it's a convergence. One of the books I reviewed was by this really cool illustrator and graphic novelist, Roman Muradov. Have you heard of him? He's SF based. He's worth checking out. His stuff is amazing. So I wrote a favorable review of one of his graphic novels, and he offered to buy me pie at Mission Pie. It was really sweet, and we became friends. And I started following his Instagram, and he had started posting a micro story a day. And so while I had been able to write criticism that I was proud of, had this sort of serious block in terms of creative work and fiction. I'd never written anything I felt like was really reflective of my sensibilities, and this form felt so good because it felt like I just started writing them sort of in my notes app, and everything about that, like the fact that they were short, the fact that they were, like I said before, you didn't have to create, it was an impatience thing too, and a like, I didn't have to make the scene, as I said, like I didn't have to write the doorknobs in, like I could just get straight to the ideas that I was interested in. And so I just sort of started making a lot of these little stories, and it was just something I would do like when I was waiting for things, waiting in the in between. It didn't feel substantial. It felt like I can get this done. And
something so beautiful about the idea that when you create something, it doesn't need to be perfect. Because if you go into creating something and you're like stressed about the perfection of the thing itself, you know, that's not how you make something good. You make something good by letting yourself be free. If you're an inherently creative person, the good stuff will flow, but only if you kind of break down your own walls of stress and anxiety and the pedestals you want to put the thing on. And especially when something is, you know, short and beautiful, the way you've been able to capture in 2 to 3 sentences these very like poetic little excerpts of stories, it almost gives them this kind of like mosaic like quality where you know, it's not like one long continuous novel, but you can just read something for 10 seconds and be instantly transported into this other universe, especially with the illustrations, which are always really just like, they're magical. I don't think there's like another word I could use to describe them. I mean, mine was like kind of funny, but the other ones are really like elegant, like they're really just like crafted. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really like, I loved yours. Uh, Part of what I think, yeah, that is sort of the illustrations, I think, contribute to the sense that, yeah, like you said, nothing in this sort of realm is complete in and of itself. But it does feel like one of the things I love most about the project is that it's also the burden of perfection is so not the focus, because whatever I've written it's not the focus. It's like this conversation that's being had between what I've written and the artist. And so I do think that the in between is kind of where the cool imaginative play comes out. And you were kind of even sort of denigrating or being self-deprecating with your art, but like what I think is so nice about this little convergence is that each artist has like their own sense of humor or their own, and a story that I sort of thought was sad or like weird, strange, then someone turns it into something really beautiful or really silly. And in that way, it's cool because it is sort of just, it's sort of a more alive to me. And I can love it more because I love things that other people do, and I love the artists that I know.
And I think that's such a beautiful tie-in to this project, like this one that we're literally having now, because I think I don't need to prepare anything going into these 100 conversations. And in a way, it doesn't matter what you're writing for your stories, and it really doesn't matter who I am, because I'm just talking to people and learning about the things that get them excited. And at the same time, it's this kind of this really beautiful embrace of community and connection while the world is ending. And you said earlier before this, you were talking about how this project is your version of like throwing a party and getting people involved when we can't do those in physical ways. And I think that's definitely something that's beautiful and admirable about your project and about what I'm trying to do with this project too.
Yeah, I think it's also, and we were talking about this, the way that our interests run in the on the extremes of the spectrum of specific to general or small to large. And I think that's like self to other, and in the way that like this project has one form and so many different sort of people and ideas converging within it. It's all sort of the same, but it's also every unique, every discrete part shapes it. The thing that I'm thinking of too is like, this is a project where the through line, at least this conversation project, is you. And so we were talking about this sort of way that it also becomes a reflection of how you're evolving along with the project, and how you evolve in how you change in every project, how you the different
conversations I have and how I interact with people, and like being able to see that, and that growth is like absolutely paralleled in the things that you're writing too, even though each snippet of yourself is micro, literally it's 2 or 3 sentences. The fact that you know, you said you don't know when this project is going to end, but you know, let's say your last one of these you do in 3 years, how is it going to be really different from the first one you started with? How is it going to be the same?
right. And I think what I'm realizing is the sort of probably the phenomenon that a lot of creators experience, which is like I'll write something that's like about a fish in love with a human. It's really hot. This is not the kind of Instagram page you thought it was. No, but and it's like that's kind of like a a funny, strange, silly concept.
Right.
But like, I think I was realizing the undertone for a lot of that, I'm a very like extroverted and openly, as I was saying, like kind of aggressively friendly person. But I do realize that like a lot of the things I write end up being really sort of melancholic or sad or reflecting on some sort of emptiness or some sort of loss or heartbreak or longing. And there are these sort of themes that emerge in my conversations, but that might not be on the surface in when just sort of interacting with what is kind of a bubbly, goofy person. So,
So
yeah,
that dichotomy is actually a great place to leave this off on because we're out of time. But I love talking to you and having conversations about your projects and my projects. And thank you so much for being here.
thank you, Katie.